Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to our summer retreat, daily reading of Mahabharata and recitation of Bhagavad Gita shlokas. We are in session 3 today. Let's begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 7, 8 and 9. We are going to recite shlokas. Bhagavad Gita 7:1. Please recite together, everyone. Sri Bhagavanuvacha Mayyasakta manah partha yogam yunjanmadashrayah asamshayam samagram mam yatha gyasyasi tachrinu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." 7.2 Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyamyasheshatah yajñāta neha bhuyonyaj jnātavyam avashishyate. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. 7.3 Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschid siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam vritti tattvataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. 7.4 Bhumirapo nalo vayuh kham mano buddhirev cha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtadha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence and false ego, altogether these 8 comprise my separated material energies. 7.5 Apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. 7.6 Etadhyonini bhutani sarvani tyupadharaya aham kritsnasya jagataha prabhavaha pralayastatha. All created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. 7.7 Mattah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana iva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. 7.8 Rasohamapsu kaunteya प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दः खे पौरुषं नृषु. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. 710. Bijam mam sarvabhutanam viddhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatam asmi tejas tejasvinamaham. O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. 711. Balam balavatam chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. 712. Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasa tamasascha ye matta eveti tan vidhi natva teshu te mayi. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of the material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. 713. त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैर् एभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम्. Deluded by the three modes of it says deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. 714. दैवी एषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. 715. नमां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः माययापहृतज्ञाना आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. 716. चतुर्विधा भजन्ते मां जना सुकृतिनोऽर्जुना आर्तो जिज्ञासुर अर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभा. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. 717. तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्ता एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानिनोत्यर्थम् अहं स च मम प्रियः. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. 719. बहूनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेवः सर्वमिति स महात्मा सुदुर्लभः. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. 720. कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञाना प्रपद्यन्तेऽन्यदेवताः तं तं नियमम् आस्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. 722. सतया श्रद्धया युक्तस् तस्याराधनमीहते लभते च ततः कामान् मयैवाविहितान् हितान्. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these desires are bestowed by me alone. 723. अन्तवत्तु फलं तेषां तद्भवत्यल्पमेधसां देवान् देवयजो यान्ति मद्भक्ता यान्ति मामपि. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. 724. अव्यक्तं व्यक्तिमापन्नं मन्यन्ते मामबुद्धयः परं भावम् अजानन्तो ममाव्ययम् अनुत्तमम्. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. 725. नाहं प्रकाशः सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजमव्ययम्. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. 726. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani tarjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. 727. इच्छाद्वेषसमुत्थेन द्वन्द्वमोहेन भारत सर्वभूतानि सम्मोहं सर्गे यान्ति परन्तप. O scion of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. 728. येषां त्वन्तगतं पापं जनानां पुण्यकर्मणां ते द्वन्द्वमोहनिर्मुक्ता भजन्ते मां दृढव्रताः. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Chapter 8, 8.5. अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरं यः प्रयाति समद्भावं याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. 8.6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. 8.7. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mayyarpita mano buddhir mame vaishyasya samshayaha. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. 8.8. अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं yati parthanuchintayan. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. 8:14 अनन्यचेताः सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. 8:15 मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म दुःखालयम् अशाश्वतम् नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गताः. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. 8:16 आब्रह्मभुवनाल्लोकाः पुनरावर्तिनोऽर्जुन मामुपेत्य तु कौन्तेय पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. 8:17 Sahasrayugaparyantam aharyad brahmano viduho ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratravido janaha. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. 8:19 भूतग्रामः स एवायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्र्यागमे वशः पार्थ प्रभवत्यः रागमे. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. 8:20 परस्तस्मात्तु भावोऽन्यो व्यक्तो व्यक्तात् सनातनः यः स सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. 8:21 Avyaktoksara ityuktas tam ahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. 8:28 वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम्. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Chapter 9, Text 1 श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं तु ते गुह्यतमं प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. 9.2 Rajavidya Rajaguhyam pavitram idamuttamam pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukham kartum avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. 9.3 Ashraddhana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. 9.4 Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina machthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. 9.5 न च मत्स्थानि भूतानि पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम् भूतभृन्न च भूतस्थो ममात्मा भूतभावना. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. 9.10 मयाध्यक्षेण प्रकृतिः सूयते सचराचरम् हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगद्विपरिवर्तते. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. 9.11 Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. 9.12 Moghasha mogha karmano mogha jnana vichetasah rakshasim asurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shritaha. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. 9.13 Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritimashitaha bhajantyananya gyatva bhutadimavyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. 9.14 Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. 9.17 पिताहमस्य जगतो माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यं पवित्रमोङ्कार ऋक्सामा यजुरेव च. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajur Vedas. 921 ते तं भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालं क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रयी धर्ममनुप्रपन्ना गतागतं कामकामा लभन्ते. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. 922 अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो मां ये जना पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम्. But those who worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. 923 येऽप्यन्यदेवता भक्ता यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्त्यविधिपूर्वकम्. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. 924 अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता प्रभुरेव च न तु मामभिजानन्ति तत्त्वेन तश्च्यवन्ति ते. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. 925 यान्ति देवव्रता देवान् पितॄन् यान्ति पितृव्रताः भूतानि यान्ति भूतेजा यान्ति मद्याजिनोऽपि माम्. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. 926 पत्रं पुष्पं फलं तोयं यो मे भक्त्या प्रयच्छति तत् अहं भक्त्युपहृतम् अश्नामि प्रयतात्मनः. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. 927 यत्करोषि यदश्नासि यज्जुहोषि ददासि यत्तपस्यसि कौन्तेय तत्कुरुष्व मदर्पणम्. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. 929 समोऽहं सर्वभूतेषु न मे द्वेष्योऽस्ति न प्रियः ये भजन्ति तु मां भक्त्या मयि ते तेषु चाप्यहम्. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. 930 अपि चेत् सुदुराचारो भजते मामनन्यभाक् साधुरेव समन्तव्यः सम्यग् व्यवसितो हि सः. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. 931 क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. 932 मां हि पार्था व्यपाश्रित्य येऽपि स्युः पापयोनयः स्त्रियो वैश्यास्तथा शूद्रास् तेऽपि यान्ति परां गतिम्. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas and Shudras, can attain the supreme destination. 933 किं पुनर्ब्राह्मणा पुण्या भक्ता राजर्षयस्तथा अनित्यम् असुखं लोकम् imam prapya bhajasva mam. How much more this is so of the righteous brahmanas, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. 934. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam madparayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Hare Krishna. So let's read Srimad Mahabharata. So quickly, please tell me anything that you remember that we covered yesterday. You can just tell me the heading. You don't have to explain. Rasapriya.
The martial exhibition.
Hmm?
The martial exhibition.
The martial exhibition. Okay. Anyone wants to give any details of that? Yes, Krishna Shish.
We were introduced to Karna.
Yes, we are introduced to Karna. Yes, Madhava.
Dad had made plans to send the Pandavas to Varanavata.
Very good. Okay, that's ended. So they're making plans to send the Pandavas to Varanavata. Okay, Rasapriya.
Capturing Drupada.
Capturing Drupada. Yes, yeah. So that's the Guru Dakshina that Dronacharya had asked of the Pandavas and Kauravas to bring Dronacharya captive. Yes. Okay. I think we have covered. Anyone else would like to add anything else? No? Okay. So let's continue reading Mahabharata. We are in chapter 7 today. The Pandavas sent away. During the weeks that followed, so remember, towards the end, what we read was Yudhishthir Maharaj is made the Prince Regent. Yes, he's going to become the next king. And after the martial exhibition, no, not after the martial exhibition. Actually, even after capturing Drupada, Duryodhana is burning with envy. And then why did he go to Shakuni? And then Shakuni suggested that we have to kill them. What was the reason Duryodhana went to Shakuni? He approached Shakuni, right? And then Shakuni suggested that the only way is to, well, that was in the beginning when they were young, right? He suggested giving poison. But now he told you should go to your father and yeah, Shakuni sends him. But was it after capturing Drupad Maharaj? Or was it after? No, I think after Yudhishthir became the Prince Regent. He couldn't bear it. Yes, that's what happened. Yeah, Yudhishthir became the Prince Regent and Dhritarashtra Maharaj actually felt pressured because all the citizens were talking that why is the blind king still holding on to the throne when there is a qualified person who can take over. Yudhishthir is the senior most and also he's qualified in every way, so he should be the king. So then he made him the Prince Regent, and even after he was made the Prince Regent, now the talks are why he is not taking the responsibility of the king. Why is still Dhritarashtra Maharaj sitting on the throne like that? The talks were going on, and this was unbearable to Duryodhan, and he couldn't bear to see that Yudhishthir is made the prince. Why not him? So he approached Shakuni, and then Shakuni said, "Yeah, we should send them away from here, right? Actually, we have to kill them, but we have to kill them somewhere else. If we kill them here, then they may rebel. So we have to make a plan to send them out. But for that, it has to come from the king, from Dhritarashtra. So you go and you tell your father, convince him to send the Pandavas away from here, and then we'll take care of the rest." Like that. So we saw how, yeah, Duryodhan came and he put his proposal, put forward his proposal to send the Pandavas away. And it was obvious, he immediately understood, Dhritarashtra Maharaj understood the intention of Duryodhan. He wants to kill the Pandavas. And after Duryodhana left, he was thinking about what should he do. Shakuni actually knew that Dhritarashtra would not take any step without consulting at first, right? Duryodhana suggested, but Dhritarashtra wouldn't take any step without consulting with some authority first. So therefore, Shakuni suggested to Dhritarashtra, he actually sent his Brahmana, Kanika. He said he will tell you what is the right thing to do in this situation. You can consult him. And Kanika said nicely, if somebody is your enemy and he's posing a threat to your position, you should kill him. Otherwise, he will kill you in future. So you shouldn't think twice. This is okay, you should kill, like that, supporting what Duryodhana was planning. So that's where we left off. And also the suggestion was that they should be sent particularly to Varanavata, because in Varanavata there is a festival of Lord Shiva going on, and it has many places of attraction. So on the pretext of attending this festival, the Pandavas can be sent to Varanavata, and maybe they won't come back, or they can come after a long time. And another plan was, meanwhile, Duryodhan will win the confidence of the citizens by awarding them so many gifts and honoring them, right? Some medals like that. And then when the Pandavas, so he would have gained their goodwill in the meanwhile, while the Pandavas are still present. And after the Pandavas leave, and everyone will find out that they didn't come back or they died or whatever, because they already had this confidence in Duryodhan, they won't mind, because now the Pandavas are not there. So the next best person will be Duryodhan. They'll just accept him. That was the plan. So now we'll continue. Chapter 7, the Pandavas sent away. During the weeks that followed, Duryodhan and his brothers slowly began to win over the people. They distributed wealth and honors liberally and provided the citizens with all kinds of amenities and pleasures. At the same time, Dhritarashtra's ministers spoke continuously in the court about Varanavata as they had been instructed by the king. The Pandavas heard them describe the city's attractions. The festival of Pashupata is starting soon. The procession has no equal anywhere in the world. The decorations, gems, jewels, and entertainments delight the heart, like this. Every day in the court, when the Pandavas are present, they are in the court. Every day they would be glorifying this festival of Varanavata. Why? To create that desire in the hearts of Pandavas to want to go there. And meanwhile, what is Duryodhan doing? He's going and gaining the confidence of all the people by giving them gifts lavishly, right? Liberally, he's giving them wealth. The young princes were attracted. When Dhritarashtra saw that their curiosity had been aroused, he said, I have been hearing a lot about Varanavata of late. It occurred to me that you boys would derive much pleasure from visiting that city. Why not make a state visit, bestow charity on the people, and take your leisure? After enjoying yourselves there, you may return here whenever you please. Right? You may return here whenever you please. There's no particular date. Go there for 1 week, go there for 10 days, or usually festival lasts for whatever, let's say 1 month. You stay there for 1 month and then you come back by this date. No. Why don't you boys go there, and while you are there, you bestow charity on the people and take your leisure, right? Just stay there, and as long as you like, indefinite, right? After enjoying yourselves there, you may return, if you like, you may return here whenever you please. Yudhishthir, however, was intelligent. He understood that this was simply a ploy to remove them from the city. Why did the king not ask his own sons to go to Varanavata? If it is so attractive, if it is so wonderful, why he is not sending? He has 100 sons. He didn't tell any of his sons to go to Varanavata. Why only the Pandavas? So Yudhishthir had seen the unusual kindness that Duryodhana had been displaying toward the people lately. That was not his nature. But lately he's being overly nice to the citizens. And he knew that he was hatching a plot, but he felt helpless. He decided it would be better to do as the king suggested for the time being. Their position was not strong. The Pandavas had few friends or supporters, and the king's sons were constantly inclined to harm them in any way they could. Yes. Why he didn't protest? Why he didn't say anything? Because they were not strong. They didn't have any support, right? Military support. They didn't have any. They had few friends or supporters. Besides that, they're living in Hastinapur and constantly plots were being made uh, to destroy them, actually, to kill them. And uh, the king will also support his sons. Perhaps a time away from Hastinapur would help, right? So they'll get a break from these attacks if they just went away. So it's obvious that the king wants them away from Hastinapur. Meanwhile, Duryodhana is gaining the confidence of the citizens. So there's a plot. It was clear to Yudhishthira Maharaj. When the Pandavas are out, now Duryodhana can become the next king. So that's why they want the Pandavas out. But what to do? In a helpless condition, he thought maybe I should just go. At least, we don't have to worry about them attacking now because we'll be away from them. A date was set for the Pandavas' departure. Duryodhana was overjoyed that the Pandavas had agreed to go. He was very happy and immediately began to make plans. He summoned his confidential counselor Purochan. Taking him by the hand, the prince said, "This world and all its wealth is as much yours as it is mine." Remember, Duryodhana is a great diplomat. So he's saying, whatever is mine is also yours. You should act so it will be protected. Right now, all the wealth that I have is actually your wealth. So you should act in such a way to protect your wealth, which is my wealth. You should act so it will be protected. You are my most trustworthy supporter. I am completely dependent on you. Listen as I tell you what must be done, and done secretly. Do not repeat to anyone what I shall now say to you. Duryodhana asked Purochan to go at once to Varanavata. Using skilled and trusted artisans, he should construct a spacious mansion for the Pandavas. It should be elegant and full of rich furnishings, but it should be made entirely of flammable materials. It should be very spacious, big, elegant, with rich furnishings, but it should be made entirely, everything should be made of flammable materials. Mix ghee and oil with earth and a large quantity of lac, plaster the walls with it, and then paint over it carefully. Then scent the house so no one will suspect anything. The prince also instructed Purochan to leave pots of ghee and oil in the house. He wanted to ensure that the building would burn to ashes within minutes. Apart from making the walls themselves with flammable materials, keep pots filled with ghee in the house, all over the house, to ensure that when there is fire, the whole house will be burnt within minutes. Duryodhana then revealed to Purochan the whole plan he had made with Shakuni. Purochan should meet the Pandavas as soon as they arrived in Varanavata. He should then show them to their quarters. He should be sure they knew that the house had been built for them on the king's orders, not that Duryodhana made, right? So the Pandavas should know that this house was built by the king for them. Purochan should live with them to help allay their suspicions. Then, when they were least suspecting it, Purochan should set fire to the house while they were asleep. Duryodhana squeezed his minister's hand. Everything depends upon you, Purochan. Know that I shall reward you with unlimited wealth if you do me this favor. Leave immediately, for the Pandavas will be there soon." Purochan promised to do everything he had been asked. Gathering a number of his men, he left immediately for Varanavata on a swift chariot drawn by asses. Wow. He went on a chariot, a swift chariot drawn by asses. They began work on the house the moment they arrived. Wow. On the day of their departure, the Pandavas went before their elders and bowed down in respect. They touched Bhishma and Dhritarashtra's feet and embraced their equals with love. Taking leave of the ladies, they walked respectfully around them with folded palms. So Kunti went, so they took blessings from Gandhari and like that. Ambika, right? Ambika, the mother of Dhritarashtra. Maybe Vidur's wife. Like that. So, yeah. Taking leave of the ladies, they walked respectfully around them with folded palms. Then they mounted their fine golden chariots. The citizens crowded around them as they made preparations to leave. Then followed the chariots, the citizens. They crowded around them as they made preparations, and then they followed the chariots as they slowly moved their way out of the city. The young princes felt sorrow at leaving their homes and loved ones. Seeing their grief, some of the people spoke out. One Brahmin said, "King Dhritarashtra does not have equal vision. He favors his sons over these virtuous princes. Pandu's sons will never commit any sin. They are blameless and pure and do not deserve to be sent away." Some of the people censured Bhishma for allowing it to happen, while others condemned the blind king and his son. Many of them declared that they would go with the Pandavas to Varanavata rather than remain with the cruel-minded monarch. So they could also sense what's going on, that the Pandavas were being sent away. But Yudhishthir checked them. "The king is our father, our preceptor, and our superior. He is always worthy of our worship and should be obeyed without question. This is the eternal injunction of Scripture, and we should abide by it with a peaceful mind." When the time came, he said, they would render his brothers and him service in another way, right? Now you don't have to come with us. When time comes, you can serve us in a different way. The citizens then circumambulated the chariots and departed, tears flooding their eyes. When the Pandavas reached the edge of the city, Vidur met them. Vidur had learned of Duryodhana's scheme through his palace spies. He wanted to warn Yudhishthir without anyone else understanding his message. Going before the prince, who was still in the people's midst, he spoke to him in the language of the Mlecha tribe's people. Speaking cryptically, Vidura said, "One who knows there are sharp weapons capable of cutting the body, although not made of metal, is not injured by them." What's the message? Sharp weapons capable of cutting the body, although not made of metal. Then what is that weapon made of? Fire, right? Is not injured by them. He survives who understands that the consumer of wood, who consumes wood? Who eats wood? Fire, again fire. He survives who understands that the consumer of wood and straw does not reach the dwellers of a hole in the forest. Again, he survives who understands that the consumer of wood and straw does not reach. So, who is the consumer of wood and straw? Fire. Fire does not reach the dwellers of a hole. Who lives in a hole in the forest? The rats and other animals that live in burrows. So fire does not reach the burrows. Fire does not reach the holes in the forest. So that person, and so he didn't use the word, fire, but without using the word fire, he said, he survives who understands that the consumer of wood and straw does not reach the dwellers of a hole in the forest. Then always stay alert. One who keeps his senses under control can never be overcome by any enemy. So he gave so many instructions without saying anything directly. He said it in coded language. He said, always stay alert. One who keeps his senses under control can never be overcome by any enemy. Vidura spoke for some minutes, and Yudhishthir, who was versed in many languages, understood his meaning, although the message was not understandable by others. All the other citizens, they didn't understand what was going on. When Vidur finished, Yudhishthir replied, I understand. Vidur smiled, then walked respectfully around the princes. Bidding them farewell, he left for his own house. On the road to Varanavata, Kunti asked Yudhishthir what Vidur had said. Yudhishthir replied that Vidur had told him that their house in Varanavata would be burned down. He had also told the prince that the means of escape would be revealed to him. The learned Vidur then said that he who is self-controlled wins the sovereignty of the earth. See? He got the purport of the statements that Vidur gave. When the citizens of Varanavata heard that the famous Pandava brothers were approaching their city, they came out in the thousands to greet the princes. The people saw Yudhishthir leading their brothers like Indra leading the celestials. They worshipped and welcomed the princes and led them into their city to the accompaniment of trumpets, drums, and conch shells. Cheers filled the air as the brothers proceeded slowly along the road. Reaching the city's main concourse, they got down from their chariots and went first to meet the Brahmins. Then they met with the city officials, Kshatriyas, then the warriors, the trades people, and finally the workers and servant classes. After the greetings were over, the Pandavas were received as guests of one of the city's chief officials. Remembering Vidur's warning and unsure of what to expect, they remained there for 10 days. Then Purochan told them that their own residence was ready. He personally led the princes and Kunti to the house he had named, the Blessed Dwelling. As they entered the house, Yudhishthir said quietly to Bhima, from the odors I detect here, it is evident it is evident that this house has been made of lac and other materials soaked in ghee and oil. Without doubt, Purochan intends to burn us to death in this place. It is just as Vidur told me. Duryodhan has obviously entrusted Purochan with the job of killing us. This is what Yudhishthir told Bhimsen. Bhima replied, then why should we live in this death trap? Let us return to where we have already been staying, right? They were staying in another official's place. So let's go back there. Why should we live here? Yudhishthir did not think Bhima's idea to be a wise one. If we let Purochan realize we suspect him, then he may try anything in order to kill us, right? Now he will be confident that he's going to burn, so he won't be trying other means to kill them. But when he realizes that the Pandavas are aware that he is trying to kill them, and obviously they will try to escape or maybe attack him, so he will become even more alert and he will try to kill them one way or the other. He will try different means. Obviously, he is without scruples and is determined to do the will of the ruthless Duryodhan. We should not give him any indication that we are aware of his wicked intentions. When Purochan left, the brothers spoke openly together. Yudhishthir said they should dig a tunnel under the house in order to escape when the time came. That was what Vidur had instructed. Bhima and Arjun wondered why they should live in fear of Duryodhan. Why not challenge him outright? Bhima was especially angry remembering the times when Duryodhana had tried to poison him. He slapped his biceps and said menacingly, "Just order me, dear brother, and I shall immediately crush the Kauravas with my bare hands." "No," Yudhishthir said. Their position was in no way equal to that of their cousins. "They are 100 and we are 5. They have rank, power, friends, allies, and wealth. Dhritarashtra will never abandon his sons, and Bhishma and Drona will always stand by the king. We cannot challenge the Kurus directly." The twins suggested that they immediately fly from Varanavata. "Let's run away from here, at least escape." Yudhishthir again disagreed. "Once he knows we are running in fear, Duryodhan will use spies and agents to find us and kill us by any devious means." Yudhishthir decided that their best hope lay in living in the Lac House, seemingly unaware of the danger. Remaining constantly alert, they should prepare an escape tunnel under the house. They should also spend their days hunting in the woods and looking for a route that would take them away from the city. When Purochan set light to the house, they could escape without anyone knowing. Duryodhan would think them dead and would not then pursue them. His brothers agreed. They then searched the house for a place to dig the tunnel. As they were looking, a man came to the house and introduced himself as a friend of Vidura. He told Yudhishthir that he was a skilled miner and had been sent there by Vidura, who had informed him that on a new moon night, Purochan planned to set light to the door of their house. Yudhishthir looked at the man carefully. Was this yet another of Duryodhan's deceits? The miner reassured him by mentioning the incident when Vidur had spoken to him in the Mlecha dialect. Yudhishthir then welcomed him warmly and replied, "We are ever protected by the virtuous Vidura. It is our good fortune that you have come here. The wicked and sinful Duryodhan has had this house constructed from all sorts of flammable materials. In command of wealth and allies, he pursues us relentlessly." The miner said he would begin construction of a subterranean passage immediately. He began to dig from the center of the house and covered the hole with planks and a large rug. As the miner worked, the Pandavas spent their days wandering in the surrounding woods. They soon ascertained a route leading away from Varanavata through the forest. While living in the house, the brothers gave to Purochan the appearance of being peaceful and happy so as not to arouse his suspicions. But at night, they slept with their arms at the ready, one of them always remaining alert in case Purochan made an unexpected move. No one but the miner knew of their plans. A full year passed in this way. Purochan was satisfied, thinking the Pandavas unaware of his intentions. So you get a new moon in every month, right? So the only information received was he was going to uh, Purochan was going to set fire on the door on a full moon night. 1 year has passed already. Purochan was satisfied, thinking the Pandavas unaware of his intentions. When Yudhishthir saw that the minister, Purochan suspected nothing and trusted them completely, he said to his brothers, "Let us, let us, uh, let us preempt Purochan before he can enact his plan. I think we should ourselves set light to the house and make our escape." The tunnel was complete. Yudhishthir considered that their best hope lay in deceiving Duryodhan into thinking his plan had succeeded. That would allow the brothers to escape without being pursued. They would then have time to consider their next move. After discussing all the angles, the brothers decided that they would set fire to the house the next night. The following day, a festival was being celebrated in Varanavata. Kunti distributed food and wealth to the Brahmins and many poor people came to the Pandavas' mansion to beg charity. By the arrangement of Providence, a Niṣāda tribeswoman also arrived with her 5 sons. What a coincidence! The servants Kunti had placed in charge of distributing the food sat the woman and her sons down, then brought them food and large quantity of wine. Gradually they became drunk and fell asleep where they had been eating. The servants, unable to rouse them, decided to leave them there for the night, although the Pandavas were unaware of this. Outside, as night fell, a storm blew. The Pandavas sat together in their room, waiting until they were sure that Purochan, who occupied the room by the door of the house, was asleep. Yudhishthir then instructed Bhima to set the house on fire. Bhima then took a torch and lit the door and several other places as his brothers and Kunti made their way along the tunnel. He followed them quickly, and in moments the whole house was ablaze. Hearing the roar of the fire, the citizens of Varanavata all came out and saw with horror the blazing mansion. They were aware of the rivalry between Duryodhana and the Pandavas, and they immediately guessed what had happened. This is undoubtedly Duryodhana's doing, they said. He has employed his evil minister to destroy the innocent and unsuspecting sons of Pandu. Fie upon that wicked man whose understanding is so crooked. The bewailing people of the city surrounded the burning mansion and remained through the night. When morning came, they threw water onto the embers and searched the burnt out ruins. They found the remains of Purochan and also of the Niṣāda woman and her sons. Concluding that the Pandavas were dead, they lamented loudly, censuring Duryodhana and his father. Some of them even condemned Bhishma, Drona, and the other Kuru elders for allowing such a terrible thing to happen. The miner, who was present among the citizens, ensured that the searchers did not find the tunnel. So he was also there. Thus, no one in Varanavata even guessed that the Pandavas were alive and that they were at that time making their way through the forest. The city leaders then sent messengers to Hastinapur with the news of the Pandavas' death. When Duryodhana heard the messengers from Varanavata, he cried out in grief, "Alas, my brother Pandu!" Oh, sorry, Dhritarashtra. I'm sorry, Dhritarashtra. I thought Duryodhana. When Dhritarashtra heard the messengers from Varanavata, he cried out in grief, "Alas, my brother Pandu has died again today because his heroic sons and their illustrious mother have been killed. What a cruel destiny! How can I face life without my gentle nephews?" Dhritarashtra then ordered that the royal Brahmins go immediately to Varanavata to perform the funeral rites for Kunti and her sons. Along with Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, and the other elders, the king went to the Ganges to offer sacred water to the departed souls. As they stood in the river, they cried out, "O Yudhishthir! O Bhima! O Arjun!" Others called out the names of Kunti and the twins. Thousands of grieving citizens came out of Hastinapur to offer oblations. Sounds of wailing and sorrow filled the air. Bhishma was particularly afflicted as he remembered the young princes who had always been like sons to him. Only Vidur did not lament, as he knew the truth, but still he did not speak about it to anyone. He knew he could not risk telling even Bhishma, who was always loyal to the king and Hastinapur. The Pandavas and Kunti emerged from their tunnel some distance from Varanavata. As their eyes became accustomed to the darkness, they proceeded in the direction they had already charted. Yeah, that means it was dark, but they continued because they were already used to coming in the dark in the tunnel. They were tired and afraid, and they found it difficult to hurry. Seeing this, the tireless Bhima lifted them all onto his vast frame. To everyone's astonishment, he placed his mother on his shoulders, the twins on his 2 sides, and Yudhishthira and Arjun on each arm, then ran through the forest, knocking down trees and treading down bushes and brambles. At dawn, so all this is happening in the night. The fire was set in the night after Purochan fell asleep. Sometime late in the night it must be. And then they went through the tunnel all night. And then they came out of the tunnel at somewhere in the forest and still running. It's night. Wow. And then they arrived in the morning at dawn. At dawn, they arrived at the Ganges, where another of Vidur's emissaries met them. This man was sitting in a boat, and he called out to the Pandavas as they stood measuring the depth of the river with a stone tied to a creeper. Right, they had to cross, right? So they were trying to measure how deep is the water. Startled, the brothers looked around. So the boatman called out. So the Pandavas were startled. Uh, he called out to the Pandavas. I don't know if they took their names. So startled, the brothers looked around. Yudhishthir approached the man in the boat who told them that he had been told by Vidur to wait there for them. Okay. He had been there every night for months, carefully watching for signs of the brothers. The man assured Yudhishthir of his credentials by repeating to him the conversation the prince had had with Vidur in the Mlecha tongue. Explaining that he had come to ferry them across the river and help them on their way, the man said, Vidur has sent his embrace and said that you will surely be victorious over your enemies. He said that you should remain always alert and depend upon the Lord, by whose arrangement auspiciousness will always attend you. Remain alert and depend on the Lord. Get into this boat quickly, and I shall take you far from here. Propelled by an engine and sails. Oh, there was an engine. The boat moved swiftly through the flowing river toward the south. The Pandavas journeyed for some hours and were finally set down on the opposite bank near a broad path leading into the woods. The boatman wished them success and departed, taking with him a message of thanks for Vidur. The brothers continued south. They soon entered a dense forest. Feeling tired and hungry, they sat down. Yudhishthir said in an anguished voice, What could be more painful? Here we are, lost in some deep and fearful forest. We do not know if the sinful Purochan has somehow survived and informed Duryodhan of our escape. What dangers lay ahead for us now? Kunti was exhausted and could walk no further. She sat on a tree root, glancing around fearfully. Her sons searched about for a way to go deeper into the jungle. It appeared virtually impregnable, with its huge trees and bushes enmeshed in a tight network of creepers. The cries of birds and animals filled the air. Yudhishthir gazed into the forest and said to Bhima, O mighty son of Vayu, you must again carry us into these dreadful woods. I can see no other way for us to continue. Bhima bowed his head in respect to his elder brother. Once again he placed his mother and 4 brothers on his powerful body. When they were all holding on tightly, he ran straight into the forest. He bounded, right? He like jumped high into the air and broke trees with his feet, clearing a path as he progressed, with all of them on him. Tall flowering trees fell on all sides with great cracking sounds, sending up showers of blossoms. Forest animals fled in all directions as the prince crashed through the woods. He seemed like an angry elephant king charging through the jungle. So swift was his movement that Kunti and her sons almost fainted. Nothing happened to him. He's just running away, running full speed, and they were all fainting. They were becoming dizzy because of the speed at which he was running. Still carrying the 5 of them, Bhima also swam the streams and lakes that crossed his path. So this is all happening during the day, but because it was a dense forest, it was still dark. As evening fell, they stopped for the night under the shelter of a large banyan tree. Bhima set down his mother and brothers, and they fell to the ground, overwhelmed by fatigue. They were carried, but they were completely exhausted. Apart from that hunger and thirst, Kunti asked Bhima to bring her some water. He replied, I hear the sweet singing of waterfowl not far from here. Undoubtedly, there is a lake nearby. The unflagging Bhima went at once toward the sound and soon found the lake. After bathing and drinking deeply, he soaked his upper garment and went back to the banyan tree. So he'll squeeze the upper garment and they'll drink that water. But by the time he returned, his mother and brothers had fallen into a deep sleep. Seeing them lying on the bare ground, Bhima lamented to himself, what more painful sight could there be? Here are my five brothers, should be four brothers, who could not even sleep in Varanavata on the costliest of beds, sleeping now on the cold earth. My gentle mother, as delicate and resplendent as the filament of a lotus flower, lies exhausted on the hard forest floor. Bhima wrung his hands in anguish and frustration. If only the Kauravas were present before him now, they would regret their treachery. It was only by the grace of God that Yudhishthir did not command him to kill them all. Bhima looked at his sleeping elder brother. Surely he deserved to rule the entire earth. He never abandoned virtue or gave way to anger. Only because of this were the Kauravas still alive. Bhima sighed and looked around. They had travelled many miles through the forest. Perhaps there was a town or village not far away. He would remain awake guarding his brothers, and in the morning they could continue. The prince sat on a root of the banyan tree with his mind and senses alert to danger. Not far from where the brothers had stopped was a massive sal tree on which lived a Rakshasa named Hidimba. He had slept through the day and was just awakening as the Pandavas were falling asleep. Yawning and stretching his enormous arms, he sniffed the night air, right? Sniffed, smelling something. At once he detected the scent of humans nearby. He sat up quickly and called out to his sister who lived on the same tree. Hidimbi, wake up! I smell human flesh. It has been a long time since we tasted our favorite food. My mouth is already watering. Quickly find the humans and after killing them, bring them here. Tearing their necks with my long fangs, I shall quaff their hot, foaming blood. Both of us shall eat our fill and then dance happily. The Rakshasa woman shook her long orange hair and opened her blood-red eyes. She cackled. How does how does a Rakshasa woman cackle? You see in Little Krishna, the way Putana laughs. She cackled and looked at the long claws protruding from her black fingers. Hidimbi and her brother had often slain and eaten hapless travelers. Swinging down from the branch, she went silently through the trees, following the scent. In a few minutes she arrived at the spot where the Pandavas lay. The Rakshasi saw the invincible Bhima seated nearby. As soon as her eyes fell upon him, her heart was moved by desire. The prince looked like a god. His skin was the color of molten gold, and his shoulders resembled those of a lion. His neck resembled a conch, and his eyes were like large lotus petals. Hidimbi decided immediately that he should be her husband. If she killed him, she and her brother would enjoy the brief pleasure of eating his flesh. But if she united with him, her pleasure would be far greater. Deciding to ignore her brother's order, Hidimbi assumed the form of a beautiful woman. Decorated with celestial ornaments and clothed in crimson silks, she walked slowly up to Bhima. With a bashful smile, she said, O best of men, who are you, and what brings you to this dark and dangerous forest? Who are these godlike men laying on the ground? And who is that woman of transcendent beauty lying with them? Bhima looked at her in surprise. Was she the forest deity? What was such a beautiful woman doing alone at night in such a place? He listened carefully as Hidimbi continued. This forest belongs to my brother Hidimba, a powerful man-eating Rakshasa. With the intention of eating your flesh, he sent me here to kill you. She raised her hand as Bhima suddenly stood up. That means as soon as she said that she was a Rakshasi and she has come there to kill them, immediately Bhimsen got up, becoming alert. So she raised her hand. Wait, don't worry, right? Do not fear. I have been smitten with desire upon seeing you, who are as handsome as a god. Please accept me as your wife, for I am being victimized by Cupid's shafts. Hidimbi told Bhima that she would save him from Hidimbi told Bhima that she would save him from her brother. She would carry him through the sky and far away from Hidimba. Then they could enjoy together in a celestial mountain region. Bhima sat down again. He shook his head. O Rakshasi, how do you expect me to abandon my sleeping mother and brothers simply to gratify my lust? Hidimbi looked down at the sleeping Pandavas and Kunti. Wake them up! I shall carry you all away from this place. Bhima shook his head again. I shall not wake my mother and brothers out of fear of any Rakshasa. There is no Rakshasa, Yaksha, or Gandharva able to withstand my strength. O beautifully shaped lady, you may stay or go as you please. Or if you like, you may send your man-eating brother to me. As they were speaking together, Hidimba was becoming impatient. Where was his foolish sister? Why had she not returned? The Rakshasa jumped down from his tree and moved toward the human scent. Hidimbi sensed her brother's approach and she became alarmed. She pleaded with Bhima, please do not argue with me. My brother is coming. Do not tarry here and become his meal. Wake up the others and allow me to rescue all of you. Bhima simply smiled. This cannibal presents no problem to me. Indeed, I shall kill him here before your eyes. Do not consider me an ordinary human being. My two arms are like the trunks of mighty elephants, and my thighs resemble iron clubs. My prowess is no less than Indra himself. I fear nothing. Hidimbi was still doubtful. She had seen the Rakshasa giants prove their superiority over men on many occasions. They were more on a level with the celestials than with humans. It was a rare human who could overpower a Rakshasa. Bhima looked over Hidimbi's shoulder and saw her brother approaching. He was as dark as a rain cloud, and he had hideous features. His ears were shaped like arrows, and the stalk of red hair on his head stood erect. His powerful body, clad in a loincloth, was covered in wiry red hair on his body. The Rakshasa was as tall as a tree and had broad shoulders. His arms, thick like tree trunks, reached down to his knees. His huge mouth was open, revealing rows of fearful fangs, right? Fangs, canines. He opened his crimson eyes in surprise as he saw his sister standing in a human form next to Bhima. Seeing her so beautifully bedecked with celestial ornaments, Hidimba immediately understood that she had become lustful toward the human. He spoke angrily. Who is so foolish as to create obstacles for me when I am hungry? Oh, sister, have you become so senseless that you do not fear my anger? Fie upon you! O unchaste woman, simply out of lust, you are ready to do me an injury and sacrifice the very honor of our race. I shall kill you along with these humans. Pressing his teeth together, Hidimba ran at his sister with his arms raised, attacking. Bhima stood up at once and stepped forward. His voice boomed out, "Stop! How dare you awaken my peacefully sleeping brothers? Nor should you attack this innocent woman. O wicked-minded one, your sister is not in control of herself. She has been brought under Cupid's control. Therefore, she should not be punished." Bhima smiled scornfully at the cannibal. Challenging him to a fight, the prince said, "Today you shall reach the land of the dead. I will pound your head to pieces. Your sister shall see me drag your mountain-like frame, even as a lion drags an elephant. Hawks, vultures, and jackals will then gleefully tear apart your corpse. Today this forest shall be rendered safe for all travelers." Hidimba flared up. He laughed at the human's impudence. Advancing toward Bhima, the cannibal screamed, "What use is this boasting? First accomplish all this and then speak. You think yourself strong, but you shall learn the truth today. For now your brothers may sleep peacefully. First I shall kill you, O foul-mouthed one. After drinking your blood, I shall then slay the others." The Rakshasa rushed at Bhima with his arms outstretched. Bhima immediately seized the giant's arms and, not wanting to disturb his sleeping brothers, dragged him away a full 32 cubits, even as a lion might drag a small deer. Hidimba broke free from Bhima's hold and wrapped his arms around him. He tightened his grasp and tried to crush him to death. Bhima was unharmed. Even while held in the Rakshasa's powerful grip, Bhima pulled him still further away so that his terrible yells might not disturb the others. He then burst free from Hidimba and clasped him in turn. The two fighters displayed their might as they lifted and hurled each other violently. They crashed about like two great elephants fighting for supremacy. Huge trees were smashed and splintered. The noise awoke the other princes and their mother. They sat up and looked around. They were astonished to see the extraordinarily beautiful Hidimbi. Kunti addressed her with gentle words. "O celestial maiden, who are you? To whom do you belong? Why have you come to this forest? Are you the forest deity or an apsara? Please tell me everything." Hidimbi explained who she was and how she had come to be standing there. Pointing to the combatants, she said, "I have chosen your golden-hued and immensely powerful son as my husband. Greatly angered by this, my brother has attacked him. See now how they struggle together, man and Rakshasa, filling the forest with their roars." Yudhishthir and the other Pandavas stood up hastily and looked across at Bhima. He was pounding Hidimba with his fists, making a sound like thunderclaps. The Rakshasa pressed forward and reached for Bhima's neck with his large hands. As they grappled, a dust cloud rose and covered them. They appeared like two cliffs enveloped in mist. Arjun ran over and, with a smile on his lips, said to his brother, "O mighty armed one, why did you not wake me up? I can see that you're growing tired fighting this terrible Rakshasa. Rest now, and I shall kill him. Nakul and Sahadev will protect our mother." Arjun was taunting his brother only to incite his anger, and his words had the desired effect. Bhima blazed up with fury and replied, "You need only be a spectator, dear brother. Have no fear. Now that this evil cannibal has entered my clutches, he shall not escape with his life." Arjun urged Bhima to make haste. Twilight was approaching, and the Rakshasa's strength would be doubled. Bhima should kill him at once before he was able to use mystic powers and illusions to fight. Bhima summoned his father Vayu's latent power. With a roar, he lifted the Rakshasa above his head. Wow. Whirling him around, Bhima said, "O cannibal, you have led a life of sin. Your existence has been in vain. Therefore you deserve an unholy death. Now I shall slay you like the beast you are, thereby freeing this forest from its thorny plant." Bhima whirled the Rakshasa 100 times and dashed him to the ground. Hidimba let out a terrible roar. which reverberated around the forest like a massive drum. Now Hidimba was only semi-conscious. Bhima lifted him again, and by smashing him onto the trunk of a large sal tree, broke his back in two. Wow. He then stood up and smiled at his brothers, who by then had gathered around him. They embraced him, and looking at the lifeless form of the giant Rakshasa, congratulated him for his incredible feat. We have a little over half an hour. Let's see how big is the next chapter. Oh, not so big. We'll just finish this. Chapter 8, Ghatotkaca born and Baka slain. Soon after Bhima had killed Hidimba, the sun rose. All this was happening in the night. The sun rose, and the brothers could see paths through the forest. They decided to continue south. They were bound to come to a town at some point. Yeah, because there were some paths, means it's going to lead to some town or village. As they walked off with Kunti between them, Hidimbi followed behind. Bhima became concerned and said, "The Rakshasas are known to avenge themselves on their enemies. They use deceptions and illusions. Therefore, O Hidimbi, you shall go the way your brother has gone." Bhima turned menacingly toward Hidimbi. He did not fear her in the least, but wished only to scare her away before she tried any trickery. But Yudhishthir stopped his younger brother. "O Bhima, you should never kill a woman, even in anger. The attainment of virtue is always a higher duty than the protection of one's body. Besides this, what harm can this woman do to us? You have already slain her more powerful brother." Hidimbi folded her palms to Yudhishthir and thanked him. She approached Kunti and said with tears in her eyes, "Noble lady, you know well the suffering of a woman afflicted by desire. The god of love has pierced me with his shafts, and I am consumed by desire for your son Bhima. If he does not accept me as his wife, I will not be able to live. Do not doubt this." Hidimbi begged Kunti to be merciful and allow her to marry Bhima. She would carry all of them to a celestial region where they could rest for some time. There she could sport alone with Bhima. Hidimbi promised Kunti that she would always be available to serve the Pandavas. They had only to think of her and she would appear before them at once. Kneeling before Kunti, Hidimbi said, "Please do not kill me by saying no. My request is in accord with virtue, and indeed, saving one's life by any means is always considered virtuous by the wise. Virtue itself protects and sustains life. Therefore, grant me my desire, for it is not sinful." Yudhishthir smiled. He was impressed by Hidimbi's knowledge of religion. She would be a good wife for Bhima, whom he had noted was not above her sidelong glances. Yudhishthir said, "You have spoken well, O highly attractive lady. It must be as you say. You shall become Bhima's wife. Remaining with him by day, you may sport with him as you please. At night, however, he should always be returned to our presence." Hidimbi's face blossomed with happiness. She looked at Bhima with eyes full of love. The prince smiled at her and said, "I agree to this union, but I shall make one condition. As soon as you obtain a son, I shall depart and leave you alone. My brothers and I have much to achieve in order to win back our father's kingdom." Hidimbi agreed. Then, assuming a large form, she carried them all to a high mountain lake called Salivahana. In that beautiful woodland region, the brothers constructed a wooden hut on the lake shore. There they lived peacefully. Hidimbi took Bhima with her during the daytime. She soared through the sky to celestial places and showed Bhima the numerous exquisite gardens frequented by Siddhas and Gandharvas. There they lay together on the sandy banks of crystal streams covered with blue and red lotuses. Hidimbi also took him to the land of the Guhakas, which was situated on the shore of the divine Manasa lake. Bhima saw beautiful towns full of shining mansions and palaces and groves of blossoming trees and heavenly flowers whose fragrance completely enchanted the mind. Hidimbi was as dazzling as a goddess. She adorned herself with fine gems and gold ornaments, and she constantly poured forth sweet song. Bhima was captivated by her, and the 7 months they enjoyed together seemed to pass as quickly as if it were 7 days. At the end of the 7 months, she gave birth to a son named Ghatotkaca. Within days of his birth, the boy grew to youthhood, and he took on the terrible form of a Rakshasa. His huge body was fearsome, with knotted muscles, a head as bald as a pot, terrible red eyes, a long pointed nose, and ears like sharp arrows. His chest was broad, and he stood as tall as a palm tree. Although a Rakshasa by nature, Ghatotkaca was inclined to virtue, and he became a great favorite of the Pandavas. He was devoted to their service, and they looked on him as a younger brother. Taught by the Pandavas, the boy quickly became proficient at weaponry and fighting. After a couple of months, he asked permission from his parents to leave for the northern regions where Yakshas and Rakshasas dwell. He promised the Pandavas that they need only think of him and he would return to render them any service they required. After touching the feet of his mother and of all the Pandavas, he rose up to the sky and departed. The time had come for Bhima to leave Hidimbi. She embraced the Pandava tearfully and asked if she would ever again see him. Bhima assured her that in the future, after he and his brothers had overcome their obstacles and were free from danger, they could be reunited. Leaving Hidimbi in their mountain dwelling, the Pandavas and Kunti resumed their travels. They disguised themselves as ascetics by matting their hair and wearing tree bark garments. Bhima carried his mother as they traveled through the many different lands. Going from forest to forest, they passed through the countries of the Matsyas, the Trigartas, and the Panchalas. No one recognized them. They proceeded slowly, unsure of what to expect and awaiting the Lord's indication as to what they should do next. While traveling, they studied the Vedic scriptures together, and all five brothers imbibed the science of morality and many other subjects described in the Vedas. One day, as they sat in the forest by their sacred fire, Vyasdev came to see them. After being received with due worship, the rishi sat down and said, I have been aware of the Kauravas' unjust behavior toward you. Although I see both the Kauravas and yourselves equally, I feel a greater affection for you brothers due to your misfortune. I have therefore come here wishing to do you some good. Vyasdev informed them of a nearby village called Ekachakra. He instructed them to live there for some time, saying that he would come again to give them further directions. The rishi then reassured the sorrowing Kunti. Her sons would in time rule the world. The virtuous Yudhishthir, protected by his powerful brothers, would certainly become king. Soon he would perform the great Rajasuya sacrifice, establishing himself as the emperor of the entire globe. The sage personally led them to Ekachakra. He brought them to a Brahman's house where they were received as guests. Vyasdev then took his leave, telling them again that he would return to them before long. Okay, so he actually led them, brought them to Ekachakra. And he brought them to the Brahman's house where they were supposed to stay. And the guest, the Brahmana received them, and then Vyasdev left, saying that he will come back. The Pandavas surveyed their new abode. The little village of Ekachakra was situated amid beautiful woodlands. The Brahman had kindly given the brothers 2 rooms in his house for their residence. He had taken a vow that he would always receive any travelers who came to his door. That was his service. Right? He would give accommodation to the travelers. Anyone who came to his house, he would give them accommodation. By day, they went about the village begging for food, and due to their gentleness and humility, they soon became dear to the people there. Everyone accepted them as wandering ascetics, staying briefly in the village, and they gladly gave them alms. Every night, the brothers offered their mother whatever alms he had, no, whatever alms had been collected. She would then prepare their meal. Half of the food was given to Bhima, and the rest was divided among the other four brothers and Kunti. When the brothers went out begging, a different one of them would remain behind each day to protect Kunti. One particular day, it was Bhima's turn to stay back. He was sitting with his mother when they heard loud crying in the house. Hearing the piteous lamentations, Kunti's heart was moved and she spoke to Bhima. "O son, due to this Brahman's kindness, we are living here peacefully with no fear of Duryodhan and his brothers. I am always thinking how we might repay this gentle Brahman. A virtuous man should always return the good done to him with an even greater good. Perhaps now our chance has come." Kunti could understand that the Brahman had fallen into some great distress. Bhima told her to try to ascertain the cause. He would then try to remove it, no matter how difficult a task it may prove to be. So, what did Kunti say? She said, try to ascertain the cause. What's the problem, right? Why are they in distress? He would then try to remove it. Sorry. Bhima told Kunti. So, Kunti told Bhima that because of them we are living peacefully here. So, we should. So we have, their. We have been. How do you say? We are indebted to them. Yeah, we are in debt because they have given us accommodation when we are in need, so much need. They have given us accommodation. So now, when they are in need, we should also do something for them. So when Kunti said that, Bhima said, "You go and find out what the problem is, and then I will do the needful." He would then try to remove it, no matter how difficult a task it may prove to be. Kunti slipped quietly into the inner apartments where the Brahman lived with his family. She stood unnoticed by the door while the Brahman and his wife and children sat with downcast faces. As Kunti watched, the Brahman said to his wife, "Fie upon this wretched life which affords one only misery. To live is to experience nothing but disease and pain." What's the use of this life, he's saying. Pursuing in turn religion, wealth, and pleasure, one endeavors much, right? Pursuing in turn religion, wealth, and pleasure, one endeavors much but receives little happiness. While everything leads to salvation, that is an impossible goal to achieve. So he's working very, very hard for what? To get some wealth, and with that wealth, he's going to he's going to get some pleasure, sense gratification. And for that, he works so hard. And what he gets in return for all that hard work is little bit of happiness. And also, how he's trying to get this wealth? By pursuing religion, not by irreligious means. And what to speak of getting liberation? That's an impossible goal. Those who desire riches suffer, while those who have riches suffer even more. Alas, why do I live? He's completely dejected. Kunti listened in silence as the Brahman continued to condemn himself and his misfortune. He spoke of a terrible danger that had befallen them. His wife wept as he censured her, blaming their present predicament upon her wish to remain in the village due to affection for her now dead relatives. The Brahman held his head in anguish. So his wife They wanted to leave this village and go elsewhere. He wanted. But she said, no, my ancestors, they were all here. They all lived here. Janma Bhumi, right? How I can live my birthplace and where all my ancestors lived. We'll just live here in spite of all danger. So they continued to live. And the result is now they are in some great predicament. What is that? So he's saying, how can I abandon you to save my own life? You were given to me by your parents. It is my duty to protect you. You have always served me and borne my children. I can in no way let you go, nor can I abandon my only son or daughter. I shall go, or maybe we should all die together. The Brahman fell to the ground sobbing. His wife lifted him gently and said, this lamentation does not befit a learned man like yourself. Ashocyananva shochastam. No one should lament inevitable death, nor shall you or our children die. I shall go. Indeed, a woman's highest duty lies in sacrificing her life to serve her husband. Undoubtedly, such an act will confer upon me, regions of eternal bliss. Kunti was curious what's going on. The Brahman's wife continued to implore her husband to allow her to die. She said that neither she nor her children could possibly survive in his absence. If she were left a widow, she would become a prey to dishonorable men who would seek her just as crows descend upon a piece of meat left on the ground. How then could she protect their two young children and keep them on the path of truth and virtue? She folded her hands and begged her husband for permission to leave. He could then accept another wife, while she would earn undying religious merits by her final service. Makes sense to me what she says. The Brahman sat with his head in his hands and made no reply. Then his daughter began to speak. Oh, father, why are you sorrowful when you have me? Allow me to go and thus save yourself. It is a child's duty to save the parent. This is why the wise have called one's child Putra, one who delivers the parents from hell. My duty to my forefathers is to bear a son, to offer them the sacred Shraddha. But by the grace of Providence, I may now serve my forefathers by saving my father. O Father, you will one day have to abandon me. Therefore, do not hesitate to do so now. The girl wept along with her parents. The Brahman's small son then said in broken speech, none of you should cry. Send me, and I shall kill the cannibal Rakshasa in a moment. The boy smiled and brandished a piece of long grass as if it were a weapon. Although they were grief stricken, they all laughed at the young boy's words. Kunti took the sudden change of mood as an opportunity to inquire about the cause of their distress. Could she do anything to help? The Brahman replied that their grief could not be removed by any human being. The country where they lived was protected from enemies by a powerful Rakshasa named Baka. He had long terrorized the people who found no protection from their weak king. The Rakshasa used to come whenever he wanted and kill them for his food. Finally, the people went to Baka and proposed that if he would stop attacking them at will, then each week one of them would go to him with a large cartload of food. In turn, he should protect them from attackers. The cannibal agreed, but he demanded that he also eat the man who delivered his food. The Brahman told Kunti that the turn of each man in their country came only after many years. Tomorrow it was his turn. He did not know what to do. He could not leave his young family alone, nor could he send them to their deaths. Therefore, they would all go to meet the demon. Perhaps Baka would show compassion and spare them, or they would all be devoured at once. Kunti said, I see a means by which you may be delivered from this fear. Although you have but 2 children, I have 5 sons. Therefore, let one of my sons, right? Let one of them go with the Rakshasa's tribute. Brahman was shocked. I can never cause the death of a guest and a Brahman to save my own life. Even the most sinful man would not do this. Rather, one should sacrifice himself and his children for the sake of a Brahman. Kunti was grave. I am of the same opinion. Because who is Kunti? She is the Kshatriya, right? She should save a Brahman under all circumstances, even at the cost of sacrificing her life or her son's life. When the Brahman said that one should sacrifice himself and his children for the sake of a Brahman, she was grave and she said, I am of the same opinion, that Brahmans should always be protected. But you need not fear for my son. The Rakshasa will not be able to kill him. He is powerful and know who is powerful, my son. He is powerful and knows the science of mantras. Kunti told the Brahman that she had already seen her son kill a powerful Rakshasa. Baka would prove no problem to him. She asked the Brahman not to disclose to anyone else what she had told him. If others learned of her son's powers, they would harass him for his knowledge, and the power of the mantras would be diminished if they were given to others. The Brahman looked carefully at Kunti's expression. She was obviously speaking the truth. Her son must surely possess some extraordinary powers. With tears in his eyes, he assented to her suggestion. Kunti went to Bhima and told him everything. She asked him to go to Baka. Bhima agreed at once. His eyes lit up at the thought that he would be able to exercise his strength, while at the same time show their gratitude to the gentle Brahman and his family. Just as Kunti and Bhima finished speaking, the other Pandavas returned. Yudhishthir caught Bhima's eye and sensed at once that his younger brother was contemplating something wonderful. He sat by his mother and asked quietly, what does Bhima have on his mind? It seems he is about to do some extraordinary deed. Is it something you have ordered, or is it some plan of his own? Kunti told her son what had transpired. When Yudhishthir learned that Bhima was about to go out to meet Baka, he became alarmed. Oh mother, you have made this Brahman a rash promise. Surely it is never sanctioned to sacrifice one's own son for that of another. All my hopes of overpowering Dhritarashtra's sons and regaining the kingdom are dependent on Bhima's power. Kunti smiled slightly and reassured Yudhishthir. She reminded him of Bhima's superhuman prowess, how, even as an infant, he had crushed a great rock to powder, how he had easily carried all of them through the forest while running at the speed of the wind, how he had slain the immensely strong Hidimba. It was not out of foolishness that I made my offer to the Brahman. It is always a ruler's duty to protect the Brahmans. By this act, we will achieve 2 things. We will reward the Brahman's kindness toward us, and we will earn much religious merit. Kunti told her son that she had been wondering how to repay the Brahman for some time. She had been wondering for some time how to repay this Brahman. This opportunity was obviously the Lord's arrangement for them. Yudhishthir pondered Kunti's words. Looking across at the smiling Bhima, he replied, you have spoken well. Your decision is well considered. Because of your compassion toward the Brahman, Bhima will surely kill the demon Baka. But you must ensure that no one comes to know that it was him. Yudhishthir was not sure if the Kauravas knew that he and his brothers were still alive. Their spies would soon inform them of Baka's death. They may well suspect that it was Bhima who had killed him. Few other men were capable of killing such a powerful Rakshasa. That night, while the village slept, Bhima quietly left the Brahman's house. He drove the cart loaded with food toward the forest where Baka dwelt. The aroma of the food was overpowering. After living for so long on meager forest fare and whatever alms the brothers were able to collect, Bhima was ravenous. He began to eat the food from the cart. On his way into the forest, he shouted Baka's name. The Rakshasa heard Bhima's approach and became inflamed with anger. He ran toward the Pandava, yelling, I am Baka! Bhima saw him emerge from among the trees. The earth resounded with his footsteps, and his shouts were deafening. He had a huge body, red eyes, red beard, and red hair. His mouth opened from ear to ear, and his forehead was furrowed into 3 lines. As he looked upon Bhima eating his food, Baka stopped near the cart and thundered, Who is this fool who desires to be dispatched at once to death's abode by eating in my presence the food intended for me? Bhima glanced derisively at the Rakshasa and smiled. He didn't care. He ignored his challenge and continued eating. Baka roared in fury. He rushed at Bhima with his arms upraised. Still, the Pandava continued to eat. Baka brought his 2 fists down upon Bhima's back with the force of a thunderbolt. Without flinching, Bhima went on eating. He did not even look at the Rakshasa. Baka roared again and tore up a huge tree. As he whirled it above his head, Bhima stood up and washed his hands from the pitcher of water on the cart. Then he leaped down from the cart and faced the infuriated demon. Baka hurled the tree at Bhima with all his strength. Bhima smilingly caught it in his left hand and threw it back. The Rakshasa uprooted one tree after another and hurled them at Bhima, who caught each of them and sent them back. Soon the whole area was cleared of trees. Screaming out his own name again and again, then he's saying, Baka, Baka. I guess he kept saying, I'm Baka, I'm Baka. Baka threw himself upon Bhima and seized him. Bhima also gripped the demon with his own powerful arms. The two dragged each other violently, each trying to kick the other's legs out from underneath him. Then they fell to the ground, still locked in one another's arms. They rolled about, making the ground tremble. Bhima tightened his grip. He repeatedly smashed the demon's head with his own forehead. Gradually, Baka tired. Bhima pulled free of his grasp and pounded the demon with his fists. He pressed down on Baka's chest with his knees and struck him crushing blows which made the earth shake. Baka fell unconscious and Bhima rolled him onto his stomach. Placing one knee on his back, he seized his neck with one hand and his waistcloth with the other. With great force, Bhima broke the demon's back in two, like that. He pulled his neck and his waistcloth together and broke his back in two. As he died, Baka vomited blood and let out a fearful yell which filled the forest. Hearing him scream, Baka's friends and relatives came out of their houses. They looked with horror at his mountainous form lying in a pool of blood. Bhima reassured the terrified Rakshasas that he was not going to attack them. This one has been killed due to his excessive fondness for human flesh. Give up killing men, otherwise this fate awaits you all. The Rakshasas immediately assented, saying, It shall be so. Then they ran from that place, leaving Bhima with Baka's body. From that time on, the people of Ekachakra noticed the Rakshasas became peaceable toward them. Bhima lifted Baka's corpse and placed it on the cart. Unseen by anyone, he deposited it by the town gates and then returned to the Brahman's house. His mother and brothers were relieved to see him, and he described to them all that had happened. Haribol. So that's the end of today's Mahabharata reading. Tomorrow we will start chapter 9. Is there any questions or comments? No. Okay. So we will end here.